Guys, I wanted to make a video, right? Sort of talking about a concept I've faced firsthand, right? And it's basically the concept of your thoughts materializing into reality, okay? I mean, lots of people hear that they automatically think what you think is gonna happen, right? So they're like, okay, I think I'm gonna be rich. They say it to themselves a couple times. They're like, okay, I think I'm gonna be rich, and they expect themselves to be rich, right? But that's far from the truth. Um, the whole concept of thoughts turning into reality is kind of flawed in the sense that thoughts by itself are nothing. Thoughts by itself is literally just words floating around in your mind, and they have no real value attached to them, and they hold no real worth within this world, right? Um, but I think the thing that people are referring to is thoughts charged with emotion, because thoughts charged with emotion is one of like the most powerful forces in the world, in the sense that if your thoughts are charged with emotion, like that's what's actually going to materialize in real world in the real world. And when I mean emotion, that can be both positive and negative. Okay, so let me give you an example. Because 99% of the thoughts you have like do have some sort of emotion behind them, and whether that's positive or negative dictates how it materializes in the real world. So let's say you start business, right, and you might be closing, okay, you're a closer for whatever offer that you're on. You're just doing sales, right, in this specific aspect of your business. If you're selling and you sort of have a feeling that you're nervous, you're scared, you don't feel like you're good at selling high ticket and stuff like that, and you actually have those emotions connected inside of you to those thoughts, it's going to show in the sales call. And realistically, like in the actual sales call, bro, you're just gonna fumble and you're not gonna close. Whereas if you have the emotions of like, I'm the best closer, I'm an amazing closer, I can handle objections, you have those thoughts, and with it coupled the correct emotions, right? The emotion of sort of confidence and I don't know, just confidence and just knowing you're the best, right? Emotions like that. If you have that connected to those thoughts, then you're gonna start closing. And I think the big thing that people misunderstand, the big thing that flies over a lot of people's head is connecting negative emotions to thoughts is 1,000 times easier and a lot more common than connecting positive emotions to them, right? And that's because over thousands of years as humans developed, or whatever the fuck it is, right? We've developed a sort of psychological trait where we're more accepting of negative attributes, right? It's so much easier to think you're going to fail than to think you're going to succeed, right? It's easier to accept failure. I mean, there's a saying, right? Expect the worst and you'll never be disappointed. Like that saying came about because people find it so much easier to accept the worst. They find that people like just normal humans, they find it so much easier just to accept that things are gonna go wrong and it's not gonna go their way, rather than actually thinking that it's gonna work and having full-fledged confidence about that, right? And that's why for a lot of people, like actually having positive connotations and emotions connected to their thoughts is relatively difficult, because their whole entire life they've been programmed just to think negatively. And it might not be blatant straight away, right? You might not blatantly think like, I haven't been trained to think negatively, but if you really peel back the layers, I mean, you have, right? Let's say you're in school and you want to apply to university. I mean, when people talk about university, they straight away think like, oh yeah, getting into university, getting into college is hard, right? And that's a negative emotion that you've been fed since childhood. Like thinking something is hard is a negative emotion, and now you're going to hold that emotion to your thought of applying to college or university, and you're making it infinitely harder for yourself, right? And that's just one of many examples that you'd see in real life. And that's why like it is universally accepted that going to university is hard and getting in is hard. And the same concept, like I'm guessing if you're watching this video, you have some sort of online business, right? You might coach, you might own an agency, you might do whatever the fuck you do, right? And the literal same concept applies in business. Let's say you need to set appointments for your business, right? Or you need to go viral on TikTok to sell your dropshipping products or whatever the fuck it may be, right? I mean, I own an agency, so that's why I sort of use examples such as closing or setting appointments. But let's say you need to set appointments. if you have sort of fear and anxiety in the fact that you don't think your SMS or your cold calls or your cold emails or your ads are going to work well and you're going to set a meeting from them, they're just going to perform worse. And it sounds crazy, like it does sound crazy, but I was reading this book called Reality Transurfing. I mean, it's a pretty popular book, and this is just a concept straight out of that book, right? I guess I'm just sort of numbing it down and simplifying it so people, like whoever's watching this, can understand it easily. The concept is like, you don't need to make any vast changes in the actual like world that we live in. It all starts from your mind, and it all starts from thoughts, and the thoughts start from emotion, because emotionally charged thoughts are what actually matter. Because normal thoughts are no emotion, they're just sort of words in your brain, right? They don't really contribute towards anything, they don't really mean anything. Sorry. But yeah, it's I mean, back to the example of appointment setting, right? Let's say you're setting appointments and you think your outreach medium just isn't like, you don't think that isn't going to work, but you sort of have fear towards it, right? By fear, you might have some sort of anxiety, like, oh, I really want this to work, and I really, really want this to work, and I want it to do that. There's a great chance that it's not going to work. I mean, maybe if maybe that might be because subconsciously I fear towards it. You might self-sabotage subconsciously, right, without you even knowing, just so you're satisfied with the outcome. Because if you have fear connected to it, you're more satisfied that you are correct, right? It's human nature in a way. Everyone wants to be correct, and if deep down you have negative emotions connected to it and you have a feeling that it might not work, you might self-sabotage yourself so it doesn't work. And I mean, you right now might think, oh shit, I wanted it to work. But in reality, your mind didn't want it to work, and it's sort of craving that failure. I guess that's a good way to put it. So many people nowadays have been programmed to crave failure, and that's not a mindset you need to succeed in business and in any discipline in your life, really. You got to master delusion. I guess it's a concept that lots of people talk about, but by master delusion, I don't just mean actually thinking you're going to be able to, like, I mean actually thinking and believing with emotionally positive thoughts connected to it. Because only then are you actually going to take actionable steps subconsciously to work towards what you're trying to achieve, right? Only then are you going to actually see stuff materialize in your life. And you only need one opportunity, man. You genuinely, you just need one opportunity, one thing to go right, and then everything's going to come like this. Genuinely, everything, it's going to be a domino effect, and it will go crazy. So yeah, man, I mean, that's really the concept I want to talk about in this video. It's really just the fact of making sure that your thoughts are right, man. And I guess before I end it off, like, you might ask, how do I get rid of these negative thoughts, and how do I actually have positive thinking? And that's a whole entire rabbit hole. That's a whole entire thing to go down, right? To sort of explore. But what I would say is, be more aware, right? You need to be more aware of what you're actually thinking, and the first step towards actually being able to control your brain to the extent where you can choose and pick and choose the emotions that flow in your brain and ultimately are connected to your thoughts stems from awareness, right? You need to be aware of what you think at all times. I mean, whenever I have emotions, whenever something happens, I'm aware of it. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling this way. Okay, I'm feeling this way. And once you're aware of it, then you can take steps to actually cure it, in a sense, right? The biggest way to cure something is just to give it no attention. It's a concept of detachment, which I talked about in my last video. Let's say if we go back to the appointment setting sort of aspect of it. If you feel fear, right, don't disconnect fear to the thought. Just get rid of the thought altogether, and then with that is going to go the emotion, right? Become so detached to appointment setting that you genuinely, like, quote unquote, don't care what happens, because then that way you don't have any emotion connected to it, right? And you don't want to be in a state of emptiness either, though. You want to make sure you do have things that you want to work towards, and those things have positive emotions, positively charged emotions connected to it, so you yourself are not just like in the void of emptiness, and you have something to work towards. But yeah, I guess it's a concept to grasp. I mean, it might be difficult for some people, might not be difficult for others, but it really just stems from being aware first and foremost, and from there then you can sort of take the actionable steps you need to do to sort of go forward and actually fix your brain, because everything in business and every measure of success in life, it all starts from your mind and it all starts from your thoughts and your emotions. So once you master that, everything else will come easy and you can really have whatever you want in this life. So yeah, I guess that's my rant for today. I mean, that's all I really got for you. So I guess I'll see you guys in the next video.